or So thank you so much, everyone, for being on with us this afternoon for our 75th anniversary seminar series. And we are having the honor of speaking to some of New Mexico's superheroes. As you may know, it is National Superhero Day. And so what a better way to celebrate than to honor our public service members here in New Mexico. My name is Christina Padea, and I am the Outreach Bureau Chief for PERA. And I am joined along with my wonderful colleague, Christina Gauthier, who is our Public Relations Coordinator out of our Albuquerque office. And we also have our Executive Director, Greg Trujillo, on with us as well, and our Deputy Director, Anna Williams, as well. So we're going to hear from them here shortly. We are just so excited for you all to be here. Not only will we be talking with some of our superheroes here in New Mexico, but we're also going to cover a portion of the public service plans under PERA after as well. So we will have some time for Q&A. But before we go ahead and get started, we are going to have a little bit of fun. And so we are going to be launching a poll in honor of National Superhero Day. So we want to know, who is your favorite superhero? And we have some popular options for you. And then our second question is, if you could have any superpower, what would it be? So we're going to go ahead and let you guys answer that. We'll give you a couple of minutes. I know there's too many superheroes and too many superpowers to choose from, but we figured we would put the most popular ones for you guys. So it looks like Wonder Woman, all right, is leading the poll so far. I'll go ahead and allow folks to answer some more. We'll give you a few more seconds. Again, who is your favorite superhero? And if you could have any superpower, what would it be? Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. And it looks like Wonder Woman, with 50% of your votes, is your favorite superpower or superhero. And then if you could choose any superpower, it looks like 50% would choose to read minds. That was one of mine as well. And I love Wonder Woman. So awesome. Thank you guys so much for participating. We wanted to have a little fun today. So if you have any questions, we are going to have Q&A for our speakers. But first off, we're going to go ahead and introduce our panelists today. First off is Sharon Saavedra, and she is a retired police officer from the Albuquerque Police Department. So Sharon was born in Santa Fe, New Mexico in February of 1981. She lived in Santa Fe until she relocated to Bernalillo, New Mexico as a teenager. She graduated from Bernalillo High School and went on to attend the University of New Mexico, where she studied business. In 2002, she began her career with the Albuquerque Police Department, where her different duty assignments included patrol officer, emergency response team member, field training officer, and coordinator for the Citizens Police Academy, the Heroes Academy for Children Living with Cancer, and the Junior Police Academy. In 2013, Sharon received the Outstanding Service Award and the Courage Under Fire Award for an incident where 4 officers were wounded in a shooting. She has now entered early retirement and will have served 21 years. She is currently enrolled at UNM to get her medical assisting license and has already received her EKG technician license. Sharon has been married for 19 years to her husband, who is also retired from law enforcement after 30 years. She has 2 children, 2 stepchildren, and 3 grandchildren. And I have to say this because she is my cousin. When you see her, you would never think she is a grandmother. So that is Ms. Sharon. We're going to be hearing from her shortly. Our next panelist today is Randy Varela. He is our Deputy State Fire Marshal out of the State Fire Marshal's office. Randy Varela is the Deputy Fire Marshal overseeing the Fire Support Services Bureau. Born in Santa Fe, raised and residing in Pecos, Randy has worked with the State Fire Marshal's office since January of 2006. The last 3 years, he has been privileged to serve as the deputy of the Fire Support Bureau. And prior to that, Randy worked as the district manager at Ferrogas and the line foreman district manager with Mora San Miguel Electric Co-op in Pecos. Randy also served in the United States Army National Guard for a total of 6 years. Randy has been a volunteer firefighter since 1978. And I forgot to scroll down to Randy so you all can see him. And where he started as a junior in high school. So Randy has volunteered with the Village of Pecos, Pecos Canyon, and Glorieta Pass departments and currently holds an EMT license. So I'm biased as well. I grew up around Randy, and he has been, again, a volunteer firefighter since 1978. It's very admirable. So we're going to get to hear from him today. And then we also have Brian Moya, and he is our fire chief from the City of Santa Fe Fire Department. Chief Moya is a native New Mexican and started his career in the City of Santa Fe Fire Department over 20 years ago. Throughout his tenure, he has risen through the ranks as he has held positions of firefighter, EMT, rescue technician, fire training captain, health and safety officer, assistant fire chief of support services division, and currently the fire chief for the capital city. As a leader in the Santa Fe Fire Department, Chief Moya has developed extensive experiences in health and safety, budgeting, planning, managing, organizing, directing, and delivering fire and medical services to the constituents and visitors of the city of Santa Fe. So again, we have some amazing people on with us today that we get to hear from today. So we're very excited. So before we actually dive into asking some questions for our panelists today, I want to go ahead and let our executive director, Greg Trujillo, and our deputy director, Anna Williams, go ahead and say a few words before we begin.
Thank you, Christina. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We have a number of great speakers. Christina has done a great job with these seminars. We did have some speakers that couldn't make it because they have important jobs. So those that did make it, we do appreciate it. And on behalf of the PERA board, we've got a number of PERA board members from the past that have been first responders. Roman Jimenez was a captain with the Department of Public Safety. James Maxon was a fire chief out of Sandoval County. John Moya is a firefighter still with the city of Albuquerque. And we also had Patty French, who in a civilian role, but served under APD for a number of years. And for current board members, Paula Fisher, she couldn't be with us today, but she's a juvenile correctional officer. And Francis Page, who was on the call, I believe was also a bureau chief over at the Department of Corrections. So we appreciate everything you guys do. I can't imagine what your lives are like. We testify either before or after a lot of the public safety bills that come before the legislature. So I just want you to know we understand what you're going through. We know it's not easy. It's a tough climb, but hopefully everybody on this call will know, and your peers will know, that we'll be here for you if you can make it up that climb. It's a tough climb, and at the end of it, you deserve a good retirement. And PERA is here, the staff is here to take care of you once you finish taking care of us. But glad everybody's here and looking forward to the seminar. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg, so much. And Anna, if you want to go ahead and speak.
Thank you, Christine. Thanks for everybody for being on with this presentation. Yeah, like Greg said, we've had some great presentations. Christine always puts together a great panel of whatever we're discussing. Again, just thanks to all of our first responders and all their hard work and dedication to our communities.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Again, as you can see, we have our leadership. We have some board members. We also have some PERA staff members on with us as well today. So again, we are so appreciative to all of you, especially to Sharon, Randy, and Brian today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to talk with us. So we're going to go ahead and dive in to our questions for you all. So Sharon, first off, starting with you, how did your path lead you to start with your career with state government as a public safety member?
Hello all. Again, thank you for having us today. The path that led me to start my career in state government, I would say, would be my bloodline. Both my parents retired as correctional officers. My oldest sister retired from Sandoval County Fire Management Services. My younger sister is also now getting ready to retire after serving as a police dispatcher and has been a sheriff's deputy for the past 7 years. And not only to mention, or not to mention or mention, I have several secondary family members such as aunts, uncles, and cousins who also are in the state government.
Awesome. And I do have in front of everyone, Sharon, the picture of you with your sister and your husband and your brother-in-law and your mom. So like you said, you have a long line, of public safety in your family. So it's wonderful to see you. I know we're going to talk about it here shortly as well, but an incident that you went through, which was very brave. And I know all of us are very proud of you. So thank you for talking about that with us.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Randy, what led you into your career in state government?
Well, it started with me. With my father was in the fire department in Pecos and with the ambulance back in the 70s. So that led me to always believe that service-related work is the most important and very rewarding. And knowing that my job is part of a larger initiative to maintain and improve public life keeps me motivated. And I've always been open to people. I've always been a people's person. And it's one of the aspects of government that I find most appealing. As I've held multiple customer service positions in previous jobs, I've developed a set of skills that are specific to communicating with department staff to find the best solutions and making sure they all feel valued. And, I like to volunteer. I like to help people. We currently volunteer with Special Olympics, which is great. We love doing that. And it's been a blessing to do what I do. It's rewarding. I got to say thank you to my family, my wife, my daughter, for always being there and supporting us and supporting me, because there's times that my daughter had games, had something going on, and either I was going to a fire or going on an ambulance call, and they understood that that was part of what I had to do. So thanks to them for all that. And thanks to the public and to all the support that I've had throughout the years.
That's awesome. And it's a huge factor what you say too, Randy, that, you couldn't do your job without the support of your family. And I'm sure Sharon and Brian would say the same thing as well, is that it really truly is a family affair. And like you said, not only are you in the fire marshal's office, but you also volunteer as a volunteer firefighter in your community since the 1970s. And so that's something very admirable that you have done. And I love how you say it, you like to make people feel valued. And as everyone can see in front of them, this is a picture with Randy. He volunteers with the Special Olympics here in Santa Fe. And so I know it's something that is definitely near and dear to his heart, as well as to his wife, Cindy. So thank you both so much for your service all around.
Thank you.
Okay, next, Mr. Brian. So what led you to your career in state government?
So first of all, thank you all for having us. So what led me mostly was, I think it'll have to be on my parents, Steve and Jean Moya. My dad was a retired assistant chief for Santa Fe County. My mom has been the chief of Gallusdale Volunteer Fire Department for the last, she's going to yell at me, but 25 years, I think. So I was raised in the fire service, just like Randy was. I was born and raised into it. When I was a kid, in I think 14, 13, we used to have the fire trucks in the backyard in Gallusdale. So my big thing was, I guess I was kind of led into it. And then the big one that really changed my life, I think, and forced me into it, was the Cerro Grande fire. I went up there with Santa Fe County, and we helped facilitate a big strike team that went up there and fought it. And I think that is what really changed my passion for wanting to do this job. And then I became a firefighter with the city of Santa Fe in 2002. And so I just hit 20 years about 3 weeks ago. So I think that has been my biggest passion. And then leading me to where I am today has been dedication, hard work, just like Randy, to my wife. She's a she worked for Santa Fe County Fire Department. She's been there 14 years. So without her, she's learned the what it takes to support me, and then what it takes for her. For a short time there, probably 10 years ago, both of us were on 48s. So our family life was very complicated. We would see each other 10 days a month. So somebody would come home and then the next person would leave for 2 days. So I think that has been my biggest passion, is just a family tradition. Like in the picture, when I became the chief, without them, I wouldn't be here today.
That's awesome. Well, and as everyone can see, it seems like all three of our panelists have had it kind of be in their blood since they were born, with, you know, with their parents or other family members in as well. So, and Brian just became, he was just, I know you've been with the city of Santa Fe, but you just became the chief. And I know a lot of firefighters are very excited for you to be on board. And so my husband, so Brian is my husband's boss. So I get to hear all of everything going on with the department, and they're just excited that you're bringing in new ideas. You know, you're going to be highlighting different firefighters throughout the city. So thank you so much for bringing that new and bright energy to the department.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, next question. So we're going to go back to Sharon. So Sharon, what has been your greatest accomplishment as a public safety personnel member?
Oh man. So my greatest accomplishment, I would say, is like any other challenging course, graduating from the police academy and the on-job training was my greatest accomplishment, because I was that much closer to living out my dream and having my own police car and saving lives, making an impact in my community.
Awesome, thank you. And I know, so, and Sharon's probably very humble about this as well, but like I had mentioned, she was awarded, and can you talk a little bit about that, Sharon, as well? I know that we have some pictures up, if you can kind of touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, although we don't do this job for the recognition, we do it for the support, but when they do recognize you for your work and what you've been involved in. So in 2013, I was involved in a shooting, the worst, basically, nightmare of a law enforcement officer and their families. So during that time, a gentleman decided that he wanted to have a shootout with police and basically ambushed police, stole a police car, went out through our community of the Albuquerque area in that police car, and only shooting at law enforcement, which we were very fortunate for that. It's kind of weird to say that we were glad he was only shooting at us, but we did have a lot of citizens around at that time. One of the deputies with the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Department did get really gravely injured, but with the amazing assistance of our fire departments and paramedics, they were actually able to save her life. But throughout the whole experience, my actions were greatly supported by my police department at the time, and I was awarded that Outstanding Service Award and the award for the Courage Under Fire Award.
Well, and that alone is, you know, why we are so thankful for all of you, Sharon, and for all of your brothers and sisters out there. You know, it's great that you, like you said, you don't do it for the recognition, you do it because you love it and you care about your community. So such a huge recognition and something to be very proud of. So I hope you're very proud.
I am.
I know your family is, so.
Yes, for sure.
Great. So Randy, coming to you, what has been your greatest accomplishment as a someone in the public safety background?
Well, I think one of the biggest accomplishments with Fire Marshal's office is increasing the funding for the fire service. in the last year, on the last legislative session, that was a couple of years ago, we passed a bill to get the monies, 100% of the monies back to the fire service so they can get more grant monies and they can buy more equipment, more fire equipment that's needed, PPE. And I think that was one of the biggest accomplishments because we used to give them out $6 million. Now we're giving them out 20 million. And, you know, we serve 778 departments in the state of New Mexico. And with a staff of 4, it's a lot of work and a lot of dedication from the staff and myself to do this. So that's one of the accomplishments. And, you know, and it's also a reward, you know, for the departments, for these volunteers that get up at all hours of the night, and even the paid staff that gets up at all hours of the night and they go out in the cold and work with all these individuals and try to save people out there and save homes. So I think by increasing the funding for the departments has been a great accomplishment for myself, my staff, and with the help of the legislative body and the governor's office. It's been great.
And I just have to say too, Randy, you have done such a great job in the State Fire Marshal's office. We work very closely with you and your team. And every day we hear from volunteer firefighters who are just so grateful for their funding and to be able to receive a retirement benefit from PERA, which we're going to talk about later on as well, because a lot of people don't know that as a volunteer firefighter, you can benefit from a retirement benefit. So we'll touch on that, but just so thank you so much, Randy, to you and your team for fighting hard in the legislative session to get that funding for them.
Right, thank you.
Alrighty, Brian, what has been your greatest accomplishment in your public service background?
So I think I thought about this in the last 10 minutes and fire chief is great, but I think the biggest thing that I've done it's kind of nobody really knew about was in 2009 when COVID came, I took over the budget as an assistant chief and they told me to cut $4 million out of our budget. And I almost fell over and every week was a new challenge for me. So one day I went home with my wife and I told her, my only goal is not to let anybody lose their job. So I think that, even though not many people know, I think that was my greatest thing, was standing up and saying, you can take whatever you want, but as long as nobody loses their job in 2009 or in 2019 when COVID came. I think that has been, you know, my biggest thing was making sure that if most people know, if you have a budget of 25 million and you got to cut 3 million out of it and 80% of it or 90% of it's salaries, by not letting anybody lose their job back then, I think that's been my biggest accomplishment, was keeping everybody working and making sure everybody had a paycheck every 2 weeks.
And Brian, that's huge, you know, and I think for everyone, it was definitely a learning curve for everyone. And for you to accomplish that is huge, especially being, you know, you guys are over, you know, you have so much going on, you know, and it just kind of amplified during COVID. So thank you so much too. And I know that your employees and, you know, would be very thankful for your hard work and dedication to, again, make sure that everyone was paid and that they had their jobs at the end of the day. So thank you. Great. So our next question, Sharon, is going to go to you. What are some lessons or institutional knowledge that you would like to pass on to others? If there was something that someone would have told you 25 years ago, 20 years ago before you started, what would you like to pass on to others?
Well, yeah. So let's see. So for many individuals, interactions with the police are very rare. I hope so. And the average individual may not be fully aware of what our police department's functions or the roles and responsibilities of the police officers in ensuring in public safety. So I encourage people to get involved in their civilian police academies. That and maybe even look into service as before, because with law enforcement, you have to be 21 years of age, but you can actually start your career in state government at the early age of 18 and starting to your retirement. But also going back to when I ran the civilian academies, with the Civilian Police Academy, that you just learn so much of the functions of a police department. A lot of people, they support, but they just don't know what the ins and outs of certain things, and especially the hot topic right now with use of force issues and how it just looks to the general eye and general public as, you know, it looks like a really bad thing, but sometimes if you understand it, you might kind of get an idea of how making these fast-paced decisions in this career can be very, very hard.
Definitely. And I think that's great advice. You know, and I think we all see it on the news all the time. You know, not only police, but fire and a lot of public safety positions in New Mexico. A lot of people have retired within the last 2 years. And I know, you know, recruitment and retention is huge right now in all public safety backgrounds. And so I think that's a wonderful, you know, suggestion for a civilians academy. Where can they find information on that, Sharon? Do you recommend they get like onto the City of Albuquerque Police's website for that information?
Yeah, definitely. And you can just Google Albuquerque Police Department, Citizen Police Academy. I know Rio Rancho has one, and I can't even imagine the Santa Fe PD has one as well. I know Bernalillo County and even the FBI has one, so you can look at it federally. And I know in some of these academies, they actually even allow some of the citizens go on a police helicopter ride. So that would be exciting to do.
Oh, that's awesome. Definitely. Thank you so much, Sharon. So Randy, I know you have volunteer firefighter background and you have, you know, with your background in State Fire Marshal's office, what sort of institutional knowledge or lessons learned would you like to share with, you know, maybe aspiring firefighters or volunteer firefighters or even fire inspection? What kind of lessons or knowledge would you like to pass on to them?
One of the things is get more involved. We're more involved with your community, and I think and stay in touch with everyone. I think that's very important. You know, the state of New Mexico is very diverse, and we want to ensure that all the people in the New Mexico and in the areas get the best EMS support and fire service support as possible, and encourage the next generation of firefighters to be mindful of the gender and racial equity, and our department should be as diverse as our state. So as you know, as you mentioned earlier, is we are losing a lot of volunteers in the state, and it's dropped by quite a bit, and it's important that we recruit, have more public awareness, and kind of try and get the younger generation more involved so they can volunteer. And I think hopefully in the future we can get more volunteers, and because we are losing the volunteer system and it's dropping pretty quick. So our goal at the Fire Marshal's office now is to start a stipend program or start some sort of recruitment program throughout the state and see what we can do to bring up the volunteerism. So very important to get involved and stay in touch.
Great advice, Randy. And I know that you and I, along with our team at PERA, we've talked about, you know, the national average or even the New Mexico average. Can you touch a little bit on what that average, you know, the average age of our volunteers here in New Mexico is? So that way, you know, our younger generation does feel inspired to say, hey, you know what, it's my turn to step up and help my community. Can you just share a little bit about what the average age of a volunteer here is here in New Mexico, and if you know, even in the country?
Well, here in New Mexico, I'll be honest with you, the average age of a volunteer now is anywhere from 65 to 75. And as they get older, they're retiring. You know, I myself, I'm 58 years old. And if I was to go to a fire right now, it'd be tough. As you get older, this is a job for a younger person. And I'm not sure what we can do to encourage the younger generation to volunteer. But as we lose the 65 to 75 age, we're going to be hurting in a few years. So It is tough. I'll use Catron County as an example. We were out there a few months ago, and the average age of a firefighter in that area was 75 to 80 in some of the departments. And some of the departments only have 4 to 5 volunteers to respond. So anybody that's close to a community, I'll use the city of Santa Fe, for example. If there's any volunteer stations in the area, they depend a lot on the paid staff, because volunteers are not responding like they used to. So it does create a lot of issues for the state and the response time. But just try to talk to the younger people, see if we can get them involved. And maybe we can start some programs around the state, some educational programs, or maybe some incentives so we can pay for their college and we can get them into the fire service.
Yeah, so I know you, Randy, and your team have some great ideas that hopefully will come to fruition, if not in the next legislative session, but hopefully in some future legislative session. So thank you for your work around all that. I know volunteers can definitely get involved in their community. There's always signs around. For our younger generations who are interested, we definitely encourage you to volunteer and help your community. So thank you so much, Randy.
Thank you.
Brian, so what is, you even being, like you mentioned earlier, an assistant chief and moving, onwards to the fire chief of the City of Santa Fe Fire Department, what is some lessons learned or institutional knowledge that you would want to pass on to others that would help them in their career, and some stuff that maybe you would have hoped someone would have told you when you were just first starting off in your career?
I think the biggest thing that I've learned is I didn't, 20 years ago, I didn't think I was ever going to be the fire chief. I think it is dedication. I think what the younger generation, and I have a graduating academy here in about 3 weeks. Something that I want to share with them is, most of these people never have called 911, and most of these young guys that we hire, we need to realize is, they might say, oh, it's another call, or we have to go on another call, but they don't realize that these people, it could be their worst day of their life. Most people have, rarely call 911. So I think a lot of it is just be compassionate, be considerate, and realize that you're here to do a job, and your job is to help out the community every day. So I think, and work hard. The new generation, I've seen a big difference in how, they're tech driven. So, you have to have their phones by them. So I think a big thing is just remember, we have to change that. We have to realize that we're having a hard time recruiting career firefighters. I've had at least 4, resign on me in the last 2 years because they don't like the schedule. So a big recruitment tool that I'm trying to accomplish and move forward is give them as much knowledge and give them as much what it is they take to have a career in the fire service, because it's not just fighting fires anymore. We have a new program here in Santa Fe where we do an alternate response unit. So it's called ARU, and they go low acuity calls, and it's a combination with a police officer, a paramedic, and the case manager. Now we're starting to change how we change our models. So it's not only doing the traditional fire ambulance running to every call, it's also maybe we don't need any of those units going, and maybe we can transition into something different. So I think a lot of it is just education. Like what Randy said, we have to educate these young people on what it takes to be a firefighter, and then hopefully they can stick around. I think they get bored, or they're not always wanting to be motivated. So you have to keep them motivated and moving forward. So I think those are my big lessons that I would like to pass on.
Yeah, and I think you guys do a great job of that too, Chief, of going around and educating, as you can see in one of his pictures. And if you go onto the City of Santa Fe Fire Department social media, they do a really great job of sharing everything that they do in the community. And one of the biggest things that you'll notice on their Facebook pages, they go out and they read to the students, or they go and do different events where the kids could go and learn about the fire trucks and talk to firefighters and paramedics. And so I think it's wonderful that you're starting at the younger generation and educating them, and keeping them excited and inspired to be a firefighter or a paramedic when they get older. So you're doing a very good job of that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and another thing that just the recruiting tool we have is, we'll pay you to go to paramedic school. So that is something else that most other departments do paid is, we'll bring you in as a basic and we'll send you off for a whole year, give you a salary, and we'll pay you to go to school for a whole year to come back and be a paramedic. So that's something else that most young kids don't realize is, we'll send you and give you some good schooling and help you develop in your careers.
Yeah, and I think that's very important to touch on as well, Chief, because I think oftentimes this younger generation, and I know I was like that, it was imprinted in your brain to go to college, a 4-year college. And now, there's so much going on, as even besides public safety, there's trade schools, hands-on careers that a lot of this younger generation doesn't know about. I'm always constantly telling my family and friends, why don't you go apply for the fire department? They'll pay for your schooling. And I think that's something definitely that, isn't as heard of by a lot of people. So I think it's great that you're using it as a recruiting tool. Great. So Sharon, what is something that you are passionate about? Maybe now in retirement, I know you're going to school, you have grandkids, you have your beautiful daughters who keep you busy as well. But what is something that you, even as an active member at the time, what is something that you are passionate about?
Oh yeah, that's definitely going to be spending time with my family, and especially now I'm considered the stay-at-home mom. And when I was working, I never thought that I would ever be that stay-at-home mom. And it's a hard career that people do. I give those stay-at-home moms or stay-at-home dads some huge major props. But yeah, spending time with my family. I'm a proud mama of 2 state champions right now. They just won state and dance. And my husband as well, we've been married 19 years now, and that's very rare these days, especially both being in law enforcement. The divorce rate, they said, was very, very high in law enforcement, but with us, we've actually made it work better for our marriage. We understand each other more. So that right now and in school is what I decided to continue as a second career. And so now I'm a student and trying to get a second career going in the medical field.
That's awesome. And I think from what I see working with PERA, you do see a lot of retirees who go back to work, but a lot of them too, have that ability to travel and to just kind of, take care of their grandchildren, like you said. And I think it's admirable that you're going back to school and you're starting a second career, and don't definitely pull back on the third career or to kind of downplay it. Being a stay-at-home mom is a lot of work. I think a lot of us who are teleworking with our kiddos at home, it was quite a job. And so I agree with Sharon, kudos off to our stay-at-home parents. And, very exciting for you, Sharon, that you're going back to school. And again, you're giving back to your community. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I would say my biggest and hardest decision right now is what to make for dinner.
Hey, that can still be a hard decision though. And that causes a lot of families to fight.
Very true. Yesterday, I was like, you guys are eating pizza.
Hey, you're a cool mom then. Thank you, Randy. So you touched a little bit about how you volunteer with Special Olympics. So what else besides Special Olympics are you passionate about?
Well, that's pretty much all I do right now. And then, just the fire, EMS, volunteering. I've stepped down from volunteering for a while due to the position that I have with the state. Once I retire, I plan on going back to volunteering with the fire and EMS. But yeah, I think Special Olympics is really important, and it's a lot of fun. We really enjoy doing that. My wife oversees the northern part of the state, and we've been doing this for over 20 years, and it's a lot of fun working with this young kids and older adults with these disabilities. And it really brings a joy to us when you're working with them, and it really relaxes you. It's a lot of fun. You know, they do a lot of sports. They do volleyball, they do swimming, they do poly hockey, bocce, basketball. So, you know, we really enjoy doing that. And that's how we spend our summers most of the time, besides camping. We enjoy going camping. So that really relaxes us too. So those are the things that we like to do. And it really brings a joy to us to work with this young kids.
That's awesome. Thank you, Randy. I know my sister has been under that chapter here in Santa Fe. So I know she had a blast bowling and even got some medals. So it's such rich and inspiring work. And so thank you and Cindy for leading that and, you know, putting some smiles on their faces. So Brian, what is something that you are passionate outside of work?
So I guess I'll do a little, I didn't kind of do this, but I have 4 girls and they range from 28 to 6. So I think my big thing is I've raised 2. My second oldest is 23. So, and then I have a 16-year-old. So I think my biggest thing now is helping raise them. Now that I'm the chief, I realize I love weekends. My phone doesn't ring nearly as much on a weekend or emails. So I think that is it for the next couple of years. Me being the chief is just being with my family and realizing during the week I don't have a lot of time. So on weekends, a lot of time is just being with them and appreciating all 4 of them and my wife. And my wife has a really kind of busy job in the county. She runs their mobile integrated health program out there. So I think a lot of what we strive on is just spending time together until I retire. I'm close, but I'm not there yet.
Awesome. And it's so funny. And I don't know if you said this, Brian. So is it all girls that you have?
Yeah, I have 4 girls. So yeah, I have 5 women in my house. Well, at least the older 2 are out, but I have 5 women are in every day.
And it's so funny learning from Adrian and his coworkers. A lot of the firefighters in Santa Fe all are girl dads. And so kudos to you guys. We love girl dads here at PERA. As a lot of them are girl dads themselves. So thank you so much for that. And also, since I have you here before we move on to our plans, what are there any sort of recruitment or different events for younger people that you would like to share with anyone watching?
So yeah, big thing that's coming up with the Santa Fe Fire Department is I'm graduating a class here in April, but also we are really active in doing laterals. That is something that the Santa Fe Fire Department hasn't done in a long time, and I'm really passionate as being the chief. Is if you've trained and done it in other departments, I'm willing to take you on and give you a abbreviated non-military style academy. So that is something that I would like to share. So we're actively recruiting every month to get laterals in Santa Fe Fire Department, and we haven't done that in a really long time. And also, I will be having an academy of probably 20 people here. I'll start advertising here in May, so that is something else that if anybody's interested or in the area, that we'll be trying to actively recruit. So those are my big things moving forward. And then just so you know, we're open. Santa Fe is a really touristy town, and I think all of June we are booked with events. So everything is moving forward in a great direction.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chief. And Randy, since we have you here as well, are there any events or just any information that you would like to share with everyone since we have you?
Yes, we're currently partnering with the Red Cross, and we're doing smoke alarm installs in different communities. So what we do is we contact the local fire department and the local chief, and we have them set up a day either during the week or on a weekend. They contact the people in the community, see who wants a smoke alarm installed in their home. And we do quite a bit of that. We've done quite a few communities in the state. And now with COVID being over, hopefully, we can start doing more of those events. We also hired a fire prevention specialist in our office, and she's going out to the schools and doing a lot of events. So there's a few things that we have planned, and as we get those plans together, we'll probably post them on our website and on our Facebook, and this way we can let the community know what's going on.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Randy. And we're going to actually, before we move forward to our PERA plan portion, because I know there might not be people who want to hear about the public safety plans under PERA, I'm going to go ahead and open it up for a couple of questions for our panelists. So at this time, if any of you want to unmute yourself, you're more than welcome to, if you have a question for Sharon, Randy, or Brian. All right, let's see. We did get, okay, someone has a question. So Karen, you're more than welcome to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Oh, okay. Hi everyone. Great seminar so far. So this is just something I was thinking about while I was listening to everyone regarding recruitment. And maybe this does exist and I just don't know about it, but have you guys ever thought of working with like at-risk youth, or even like joining up with the juvenile court system, you know, to kind of take on these at-risk youth individuals and kind of opening up their eyes to something different outside of their normal work environment, kind of to serve as one, getting youth involved, a recruiting tool, and also changing their lives, you know, to something else, you know, kind of like in the old days, you would get sent to the army if you were bad. You know, have you guys thought of something like that, just as far as, I don't know, trying to recruit younger people, but trying to change lives at the same time? Anyone, question for anyone, and maybe not even.
Yes, this is Randy. Yes, that has come up. Actually, to be honest with you, my wife works for CYFD and she's brought up that suggestion a while back. Maybe that is something that we need to look at and start working with the local agencies and see what we can do.
And I'm sure, you know, big idea, right? Easier said than done, but maybe
Yeah,
it's a possibility. You know, New Mexico, often we get a bad rap because we're last in this, last in that, and I don't know. We need something to change that.
I also have an answer for that. So when I ran the civilian police academies, part of it was the academy for the junior police academy. And we actually brought in the CYFD. We actually took them on a field trip, since the police academy is just right down the street from the juvenile detention center. We actually walked all the kids down to the detention center, and they got to see the cells. They got to see how they actually ran the detention center when you were booked into that facility. So that on that end, we partnered with them. Also, every year the police department runs the Cops for Kids. And that, where they take a lot of the underprivileged children and they have that mentorship with them. Yes, they do get to go shopping and spend some money on themselves and their families, and just have that involvement with law enforcement and try to get that positive interaction, especially with law enforcement, because we're usually the ones that are going to be coming after you and possibly putting you in jail or charging you. So we have programs like that. I'm sure there's many more that I'm missing, but those are targeted towards certain age groups as well. And I believe Rio Rancho might even have a, well, we do have mentorship programs too, where we have high school students come and interact and actually volunteer their time and do things in the police department. I want to say Rio Rancho, and I can't remember what the program is called, but they have for even older, under 18, but maybe above 14. I think it's like their, oh gosh, again, I can't remember what the program is called, but we have stuff like that. So we just need to engage more.
Thank you.
I have one real quick, Christina. It's Greg.
Yes, please go for it.
So first, thanks to Randy and Chief Moya for joining. My question is for Miss Saavedra. So now that you're retired as a police officer and a stay-at-home mother, which one is harder?
Like I said earlier, my hardest decisions at home is what to make, whatever's going to be happy at home. I always said work was a vacation from home. This is the hardest. Being a stay-at-home mom is very hard, but rewarding too. I see their accomplishments as well.
Good, congratulations.
Thank you.
Alrighty, does anybody else have any other questions? Okay, well, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and start our second portion of going over our public safety plans under PERA. So for our speakers, you are more than welcome to stay on. I know, Sharon, you're already retired in retirement land. So you're more than welcome to stay or leave, as well as for our other speakers. We can't thank you all enough, Sharon, Randy, and Brian, for your service to our communities. Thank you to your employees and your colleagues who are also out there, you know, in the front lines for all of us, especially now during this pandemic. Again, I think at this time we couldn't be more appreciative to all of you. So thank you so much for your service. And if you ever need anything, you have a few PERA people that you can always reach out to if you have any questions. So thank you so much again. And like I said, you're more than welcome to stay or you can leave as well. We know how busy you guys are. So thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you, Christina. Thanks to your staff. I do have you on speed dial, so if I need something, you'll hear from me.
You're on our speed dial too, Randy.
Okay, thank
Where
you all.
live and work.
Chief Moya, thank you, Ms. Saavedra.
Yes, thank you to all of you. I appreciate the time and thank you for everything.
Thank you. Well, great. With that being said, everyone, we're going to go ahead. I'm going to actually hand it over to my colleague, Christina Gauthier, and she is going to take us on to the second portion of our seminar today.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much. So inspiring to hear all of our public safety members, and we appreciate all of their service to our communities. I would also like to say thank you for all of the families who support them, including some of you in the audience today. They couldn't do it without you. So as Christina mentioned, we're sort of switching gears. We have to preface the conversation about our public safety plans with the definition of tiers and vesting, because we have different requirements for our two different tiers. And so you are considered to be a Tier 1 member of PERA if you were hired into a PERA-eligible position on or before June 30th of 2013 and had member contributions in your account as of that date. The only other way to be classified as a Tier 1 member is if you were already retired by June 30th of 2013. No action you take after that date can change your tier status. So you could switch plans, you could switch employers, you could retire, and you would still be considered Tier 1, provided you met the requirements of that tier. Tier 2 members are defined as individuals who join PERA's family for the very first time on or after July 1st of 2013, or if you're an individual who worked for PERA in the past, swore the grass was greener on the other side, took a refund of your contributions and had a zero balance on June 30th. If you return to PERA July 1st of 2013 or later, after that zero balance period, you would be considered Tier 2, even if you work to pay PERA back for those refunded contributions. So the definitions are pretty much a line in the sand. You either met the requirements prior to, or you are considered Tier 2. Vesting for our 2 tiers when the plans were, or the tiers were adopted back in 2013 were different than what you see on the slide here. The changes came about in the 2020 legislative session that made vesting for both Tier 1 and Tier 2 members 5 years of service credit under PERA. Nowhere in our rules or statute does it say they have to be 5 consecutive years. They just have to be 5 years total. The importance of vesting is once you have a minimum of 5 years of service credit, you are eligible when you meet our age and service credit requirements to draw a lifetime pension payment, and vesting allows you to purchase additional types of service credit. All right, so this slide is big on my screen, but it might be really tiny on yours. For reference, the plans that are listed here are our public safety plans and the provisions that they have. If you need a bigger version of this, it is available on our website at nmpera.org. And so we have public safety plans for our state employees, as well as our municipal employers. Your agency, if you are outside the state of New Mexico, officially adopts a plan by resolution, and the eligible members of that organization participate in the plan. You can't show up on your first day of work and pick the plan that looks great for you. It is a requirement that your organization adopt a plan by resolution, and so we are going to move on to those plans. But as you can see, they all have different contribution percentages for both the employees and employers. There are different percentages tied to pension factor. Super not my favorite terminology. I refer to this column as the annual multiplier column, but each of these plans and tiers of membership have a different percentage. The common denominator on this slide is that all of our plans have a 90% maximum. How long it takes to get there depends on which plans you worked in during the course of your career. All right, so Tier 1 retirement eligibility for state General Plan 3 peace officers, Juvenile Correctional Officer Plan 2 members, Municipal Police Plans 1 and 2, and Municipal Fire Plans 1 and 2 begin with 25 years at any age. So regardless of the number of birthdays, when you get to 25 years of service credit, you are eligible for retirement. As we noted on the tiers investing slide, the minimum on this table is 5 years of service credit and 65 birthdays. We have other age and service markers in between. The important note for this slide is that you have to meet the age and service credit requirements on one line to be retirement eligible. There is no rounding. There's not an I'm almost there principle. You have to meet the minimum requirements on one line to be eligible if you are employed in one of these plans at the time of retirement. For our state police, correctional officer, probation and parole officer plan 1, and municipal detention officer plan 1, those individuals under Tier 1 are actually eligible to earn enhanced service credit for their plan. So instead of earning a standard year of service credit every year, they, as long as they meet the requirements, are eligible for a 20% enhancement of their service credit. And so for an individual in this plan, their entire career, after 20 years and 10 months of physical service, when that's enhanced 20%, they walk out the door with 25 years of service credit and are eligible to retire at any age. The age and service markers you see are the same between the two tables, with the minimum being 5 years of service at 65 years of age. All right, so for our Tier 1 municipal police and fire plans 3, 4, and 5, you are eligible to retire at 20 years of service credit at any age, or a minimum of 5 years and 65 birthdays. The other age and service markers look similar to the previous two tables that we looked at because they are the same. And so those eligibility markers, for the most part, what we see out of our public safety members is they either go with the top of whichever chart we've looked at if they've been doing this career for a long time, or they age out for age and service if this is maybe their second or third career. So definitely lots of flexibility with retirement eligibility. For our Tier 2 public safety plans, which is pretty much all the plans we've covered thus far, state police, correctional officer, probation and parole officers, juvenile correctional officers, all 5 of our police and municipal fire plans, our municipal detention officers, and our peace officers under State Plan 3. The 2 requirements for retirement eligibility for Tier 2 is 25 years of service credit at any age, or a minimum of 60 years of age and 5 years of service credit. I'm guessing the majority of our panelists had to hop off, but another recruiting tool, in my personal and professional opinion, is that Tier 2 public safety members currently hold the only 25-year at any age retirement eligibility. So if somebody is looking for a fast way to get to retirement eligibility, this is one of the fantastic ways to do that. And so that information is there for you as well. Since Christina mentioned we would cover volunteer fire, I added a quick slide while our panelists were speaking. And so the minimum retirement eligibility for volunteer fire members is 55 years of age and 10 years of volunteer fire service credits. The beautiful perks of being a volunteer firefighter member is if you have a paid PERA job and you volunteer outside of that job, you can actually draw your paid PERA pension as well as your volunteer stipend. And so with a minimum of 10 years, you can draw $125 a month. If you make it all the way to 25 years of volunteer firefighter service credit, your benefit pops up to $250. So definitely a great way to add a little extra cash while serving your community to your overall retirement. And then I know Karen is on with us today. She is our program manager for the PERA Smart Safe Plan. We want to remind everyone who is joining us today that no one has ever come to any PERA presentation ever telling us they've saved too much money and what do they do now. It is always, I wish I started sooner and I wish I saved more. One of my favorite things about the public safety plans that we have, all of our employers are really diligent about catching their new recruits and their graduating classes and encouraging them all to start saving additional money toward retirement. PERA is mandatory as a condition of employment, but the PERA Smart Safe Plan should be mandatory. Everyone's going to need extra money post-retirement, whether you're using that to offset post-retirement insurance or you're using it to have lots of fun. So lots of options from that standpoint. If you have questions about how to enroll, please let us know. And so there is a website dedicated to our PERA Smart Safe Plan, parasmartsafe.voya.com. For those of you who are maybe confused about which tier of membership you fall under or which PERA plan you are currently participating under, PERA developed in 2005 when we adopted our new software, a self-service portal. This is one of the most underused resources PERA offers. We encourage you to create a login when you go to our website, which is nmpera.org. At the top of the page, you will find a yellowish Rio login button. If you've never created an account before, you just have to answer a few questions about yourself. You get to pick a user ID and password that makes sense to you, and then you can see everything staff sees sitting at our desks. All of your service credit, your tier of membership, your plan. You can check your beneficiary designation, your contributions. You can run an estimate for airtime if you're interested in buying service credit. So lots of amazing features built in, and it transitions with you into retirement, provided you remember to update your email address from your employer-sponsored email, and it gives you access to your tax documents. If you need an income verification letter or want to check what changed in your monthly deposit, it is a fantastic resource. All right, so I heard the chief from Santa Fe mention that they are open and things are getting back to normal. We are very, very hopeful that comes to fruition. And so for the time being, PERA's offices are still closed to walk-in members. We are and have been since March of 2020 serving our membership via email. Our call center is staffed Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. You are welcome to drop items off for us at our drop boxes, but something innovative that came through some changes to our self-service software is last November, our members gained the ability to upload request forms and their retirement applications and other documents through their self-service portal as a secure and fast way to get your documentation to PERA. If you are interested in learning more about PERA in general, PERA actually hosts 2 webinars every month. One is geared toward anyone. It's a more general presentation. Our second seminar of the month is geared toward helping members prepare for retirement. If you have some time, please feel free to join us. My colleagues mostly respond to our PERA member services email. I pitch in whenever needed. And then we also monitor the PERA-Albuquerque email address. So we encourage you to reach out to us if you have any questions. While your loved ones and colleagues are really well-intentioned, none of them likely work for PERA, with the exception of Ms. Saavedra, who has Ms. Christina. All right, so officially we've already mentioned PERA's website, nmpera.org. There you can find lots of amazing resources, including our most up-to-date handbook. You can actually find our video series that cover a more detailed explanation of our tiers of membership and how to interpret an estimate of benefits, how to retire from PERA. So we encourage you to visit and utilize that resource. Ms. Christina Padea was a pioneer and brought social media to PERA. As many of you know, people aren't very nice on social media at times, but since she implemented this program, honestly, I cannot recall anyone being rude to us on social media, which is probably unheard of in the government sector. Most of our constituents are really excited about retirement, and we feel that vibe and that love. If you are have a social media and want to follow along, these are our handles. They're also available on our website. We promise not to cyberstalk you. As you might have noticed, our 75th logo is very prominent on many places in today's presentation, and it is one of the main reasons we are here today. We actually have a website dedicated to our 75th anniversary, where you will find lots of amazing historical information about PERA. The website specifically is nmpera.org/anniversary, and you'll find amazing things like the very first bill that brought PERA to life. And so lots of amazing information for you there. And then we encourage you to join us for our May 75th anniversary series. We will be looking at a slice of the PERA estimate pie. We have a sample estimate of benefits that we can walk you all through. And then we are going to talk about other important pieces to consider when you are planning for retirement. So we encourage you all to join us for our next 75th anniversary seminar series, and that'll take place May 2nd at noon. All right, so Ms. Christina did a really beautiful job with this presentation, and she found this really relevant quote. I think a hero is an ordinary individual who finds the strength to persevere and endure in spite of overwhelming obstacles. And the quote comes to us from none other than Superman, who lost our poll earlier. So I feel bad for him now. All right, so Christina and I and any of the PERA staff that may still be present in today's seminar can absolutely stand for questions if you have any. And so you are welcome to unmute yourself, or you can send the question over through the chat feature if you're logged in through a smart device. And we really, truly appreciate you joining us today. It has been our pleasure to educate you about our public safety plans. And again, thank you all to our public safety members who joined us today, and of course our PERA staff.